Chag Sameach, everybody, and welcome to day one of Pesach. Wonderful to see everybody here this morning. So much of the holiday of Passover is designed to engage and to inspire the next generation, specifically children, but also teenagers and young adults. There are so many verses in the Torah that speak about what if your child asks this, what do you say? And we have the 4 children that have become part of the Passover Seder and trying to determine who has good intentions and who doesn't, and what do you say and what don't you say. And it is no secret that many of us wonder and worry about the next generation. What's going to be? Are they going to be into the traditions? Are they going to understand the story? Are they going to have the courage to stand up for the Jewish people when necessary? So here we are, day one, and I want to share with you that there is so much that I'm worried about. And I suspect you share these worries. I'm worried about the fate of hostages. We don't really know what the reality is for them right now. I am worried about Israelis who are dealing with trauma and post-trauma, sometimes at the same time. I am worried with families in Israel that have to contend with loved ones who are not present, either because they know that they have been killed, or because they are in Gaza, or because they are fighting and they have to be able to go on and to somehow live their lives. I am worried about all of the innocent people who are being impacted by this conflict. I'm worried about anti-Semitism, which is on the rise. I am worried about what's going on university campuses, including my own alma mater, Columbia University. I am worried about all of these things, and I will tell you one thing that I'm not worried about. I am actually not worried about the next generation, because the next generation have proven that they, by and large, understand the story and are willing to defend our people, even as they support the rights of other people. Now, this isn't true of everyone, and I am worried about some in the next generation whose Jewish identities are very tenuous and who, in my way of looking at things, don't fully understand what it means to protect the Jewish people from those that are truly homicidal and do not wish us well. But by and large, the younger people that I come in contact with, and I'll say shortly more about the people from our synagogue that have truly stood up and shown that they are worthy of this moment in history. This is something that I'm not so worried about, and it actually gives me hope. I'm going to start with the next generation in Israel. So typically, older Israelis will say to the younger generation, you don't quite have what it takes. We fought in this war and that war, and they look at the younger generation, or at least they used to, and say, you don't quite have the goods to do what needs to be done. Well, older Israelis are saying now about this next generation that are fighting this fight under circumstances you wouldn't wish on anybody, kol hakavod. This younger generation truly has stood up and has demonstrated extraordinary self-sacrifice, often sacrificing even their lives. And you read the things that they have written, often to parents. God forbid, read this if I don't come home. And they'll talk about how proud they are to be able to serve the Jewish state and the Jewish people. It is extraordinary the extent to which this younger generation has stood up and faced this moment in history. When I was in Israel, one of the things that Israelis would say to me is, We're worried about you. We're worried about you guys. We have an army to defend ourselves. What's going on in the United States? What's going on social media? What's going on university campuses? Why is it that your students can't go to class safely? What's happening? We are worried about you, they're saying. Now, I don't want to make the comparison. It's so different. Each situation is unique. But I will say that our next generation, they are facing threats on university campuses and also on social media. I'll address the university campuses. My goodness, there are very few universities where Jewish students right now feel completely safe. One of the rabbis at Columbia University wrote to his students, "You might want to consider going home for a few days because we cannot guarantee your safety due to demonstrations that are certainly crossing boundaries into harassment and into anti-Semitism." This is almost unfathomable that this is going on. So what makes me worry a little bit less? The extent to which this next generation are learning how to stand up for themselves. I have spoken to graduates of Temple Israel's religious school and youth house. One of them wrote an article for her college paper denouncing the anti-Semitism on campus and arguing for appropriate, respectful dialogue, which sadly is very rare on her campus and on other campuses right now. Another graduate of Temple Israel, member of our community, was fighting on his college campus because the rule was that students couldn't wear T-shirts that supported the release of the hostages. Why not? Because they didn't want any aspect of the conflict to be demonstrated. And he said, that's ridiculous. Why can't we advocate for the release of innocent hostages? Another student called to task the Hillel director for not being sufficiently protective of the Jewish students on campus. And yet another arranged a meeting with the president of the university to sit with him and to say, help me to understand what your plan is, to make sure that Jewish students feel as protected as all other students on campus. Now, on the one hand, of course, the fact that they have to do this is very, very worrying. But on the other hand, we should take some comfort in knowing that they have the goods. They have the knowledge, they have the background, and they have the courage to be able to stand up and to be able to advocate for themselves and for other Jewish students the same way that they have been advocating for all students to receive equality and protection. When Moses went to Pharaoh and said, let my people go, Pharaoh said to Moses, Mi va mi haholchim. Who are we talking about? Who is actually going to be leaving? And Moses said, Bina arenu uviskenenu nelech. Our young and our old will be leaving together. Bevanenu uvivnotenu. Our sons and our daughters will be leaving together. We have always marched together. All of the generations have always marched together. And we are going to continue to do that. Yes, I am worried, and you should be worried about a lot of things. But one thing that can give us comfort is that this Dor Chadash, this new generation in Israel, in the United States, throughout the world, is a source of inspiration and strength. And so we say, Ledor vador nagid godlecha. We will continue to tell this story and to live this story for our benefit and for the benefit of humanity from one generation to another. Amen.